the blood and the giant. The battlefield was broken. Smoke floated in the air like ghosts. Fires burned in the distance. The ground was wet with blood, and metal pieces from war machines lay everywhere. Screams had stopped. The war had ended. For now. Private Jace Corbin lay on the cold ground. His face was covered in dirt and blood. One of his legs was broken. His armor was cracked. His helmet had been torn off during the last explosion. He was barely breathing. The rest of his team was gone, dead or captured. Jace had tried to fight, but the enemy was too strong. The last thing he remembered was falling after a blast hit him from behind. Now he was alone. The only sound left was the crackling of fire, until heavy footsteps echoed across the field. Thud, thud, thud. Something big was coming. Jace could not move. His body refused to listen. His eyes, half open, caught a blurry figure moving through the smoke. It was tall, very tall, with long limbs and glowing blue eyes. As the figure came closer, Jace saw it was an alien female, wearing what looked like armor made of bone and crystal. She was at least 9 feet tall. Her skin was smooth and silver. Her hair was thick and black, tied behind her like a warrior's rope. Her face was sharp but calm. Strange symbols glowed softly on her arms and chest. She looked powerful, but not angry. Jace felt fear rise in his chest. Was she here to kill him? Was she the final blow in a war already lost? She knelt beside him. He flinched, but she didn't hurt him. Instead, she looked into his eyes and said something in her alien language. The words sounded like a song, soft, deep, and warm. She reached out a massive hand, glowing blue from some kind of energy. Jace wanted to scream, but he couldn't even speak. Her fingers hovered over his chest, then slowly touched the bleeding wound. A soft light moved over his skin. The pain dulled like ice had been poured into his veins. He gasped. She was healing him. Jace's heartbeat slowed. He tried to speak. Why? The alien didn't answer. She looked around, made a low growling sound, and then gently slid her long arms under his broken body. Lifting him was easy for her, like picking up a small child. She stood up. Jace expected to be thrown into a cage or taken to a lab, but instead, she carried him like a mother would hold her hurt child. She moved through the smoke, careful with every step, as if each stone on the ground might hurt him. Her armor made no sound. Her eyes kept checking his face. She was not just saving him, she was protecting him. Far behind them, the battlefield faded into silence. She brought him to a strange craft, part ship, part organic creature. Its doors opened like flower petals. The inside glowed with soft green light. The air smelled sweet. It felt safe. She laid him on a soft surface that shaped itself around his body. Then she placed her giant hand on his forehead. Her eyes closed. Jace stared at her. This alien, this giant being from another world, wasn't his enemy. She was something else, something more. The pain in his body was still there, but it no longer controlled him. The fear started to melt away. For the first time in days, he felt warm. And before sleep took him, one thought whispered in his mind. She's not here to kill me. She's here to care for me. The alien nursery Jace woke to a strange softness beneath him. It wasn't a bed, at least not like anything from Earth. It was warm, shaped like a living cushion, and moved slightly with his body. His eyes opened slowly. The room around him was alive. Walls glowed with gentle green and blue lights. Strange vines ran across the ceiling, dripping light instead of water. Machines floated in the air, silent, smooth and round like jellyfish with blinking eyes. He wasn't in a hospital. He was in something else, an alien nest. And then he saw her. The giant alien female who carried him from the battlefield was sitting nearby, cross-legged. She looked at him like a mother waiting for her child to wake from a fever. Her armor was gone now. She wore something soft, made of fabric that shimmered like silver mist. Her long hair was down. She didn't look like a soldier anymore. She looked like a mother. She made a gentle sound, deep and soft. It reminded Jace of a lullaby, but from another world. He blinked. Where am I? She tilted her head as if trying to understand. Then she slowly tapped her chest with her hand. Srani, she said. Jace pointed to himself. Jace, she nodded slowly. Jace, she repeated in a thick accent. Then she did something he never expected. She reached over, opened a small drawer built into the wall and pulled out something glowing. It looked like a fruit, but it hovered above her hand. She broke it in half and gently offered him a piece. Jace hesitated. Was it food? Poison? His body hurt, but his hunger hurt more. He took it. It melted in his mouth like honey and mint. Warmth spread through his chest. He felt better. Stronger. Srani smiled. He noticed how her eyes, those glowing blue orbs, looked softer now. No anger, no coldness. Just care. He looked down at his arm. The wound was gone. His leg, once broken, was now wrapped in something, living, like a soft breathing cast. She had healed him, not just fixed his body, but treated him like a child, not a prisoner. Jace sat up slowly. Why are you helping me? She didn't answer. Instead, she stood and walked to a wall. A section opened silently. She reached inside and pulled out a small glowing frame. She sat beside him again and held it out. Jace looked. It was a picture. An alien child. Small, smiling, with the same blue eyes as Srani. Jace didn't need words to understand. The child was gone. The child was dead. Srani had lost someone, and now, she was looking at Jace with that same motherly gaze. She was trying to heal a hole in her heart by protecting him. Jace swallowed hard. He wasn't ready for this. He was a soldier, trained to fight, not feel. But something in her quiet actions, her careful touch, her feeding him, made a part of him melt. She didn't treat him like a war trophy. She didn't ask questions. She didn't even try to scare him. She simply gave what no one had given him in years: kindness. Later, when he fell asleep again, he dreamt of his own mother. But this time, the dream ended with a tall alien woman sitting beside his hospital bed, singing softly in a language he didn't understand. And for the first time since the war began, he didn't feel alone. A mother's touch. Jace opened his eyes to a sound he hadn't heard in months. Laughter. Not loud or wild. Just a soft chuckle, deep and strange, but full of peace. He turned his head. Srani, the alien giantess who had saved him, was sitting nearby again. But this time, she was watching something on a floating screen. It showed children, alien children, running through a glowing forest. They played with soft animals, their long fingers tickling the creatures until they fell over giggling. She was smiling. Jace watched her from the bed. This was no warrior now. She looked human almost. The way she watched that screen. The way she placed her hands over her knees like his own mother used to do when resting. And for a moment Jace forgot the war. Forgot the pain. Forgot everything. His leg still hurt, but it was healing fast. The living cast around it pulsed with warmth every hour, wrapping his bones like gentle vines. A machine came by sometimes and sang to it in low musical tones, alien tech beyond anything humans had. Jace shifted. Srani immediately turned, rose, and walked over. She didn't ask if he needed help. She simply helped. She reached under his arm with her massive hand and guided him to sit upright. Then she pulled a tray from the wall, warm food, glowing in soft blues and greens. Every bite healed him. He looked up at her. Why are you doing this? Srani tilted her head again. She didn't answer in words. Instead, she walked to another part of the room and returned with a small stuffed creature, something soft with 6 legs and a tiny tail. She handed it to him. It was worn, torn, in places, stitched with care. This was not hers. It belonged to a child. Her child. Jace looked at it, then looked at her. She wasn't just helping him to be kind. She was trying to be a mother again, but not in a creepy way. Not in a forced way. She never controlled him. Never treated him like a baby. She treated him like something precious, something broken, that deserved to be whole again. And maybe that's exactly what he was. Jace lowered the toy. "Your child?" he asked softly. Srani nodded once. Her hand gently touched her chest, then moved toward him. "My child. You, that's what her gesture meant. A human soldier and an alien mother." It made no sense, and yet it made perfect sense. Jace felt something warm in his chest. A knot he didn't know was there. Began to loosen. After a while, he leaned back and let the silence fill the space. But it wasn't empty. It was peaceful. Later that evening, he saw her pray. Not like humans do. She didn't kneel. She floated. Her body rose off the ground, arms spread like wings. Her voice, low and deep, hummed through the air. The walls responded, lighting up with gentle waves of color. The jellyfish machines hovered around her like stars. She was beautiful. He watched with wide eyes, not sure if he should look away or bow his head, but she didn't need an audience. She was speaking to something only she understood. A mother asking the stars for forgiveness. Or maybe just asking them to watch over her new child. They came to take him. It began with a vibration in the walls, a soft hum, then a shaking thump, like a giant heartbeat echoing through the living room. Jace was eating when the floating lights dimmed. Srani stood up instantly. Her eyes narrowed. She touched a part of the wall and alien symbols glowed in the air. Jace had never seen her this tense. She turned to him with a look that needed no translation. Danger was coming. Before Jace could ask anything, a siren-like tone filled the space. Low, rumbling, almost sad. Then the ship's outer layer opened a circular window. Jace rushed over, limping slightly. Outside, through the purple mist of the alien sky, he saw them. 3 warships. Black, sharp, and shaped like claws. They hovered above Srani's vessel like wolves circling a wounded deer. Then they spoke. Voice deep and cold echoed through the room in a language Jace didn't understand. But Srani did. Her hands tightened. Her jaw clenched. "They want me?" Jace asked, afraid of the answer. Srani looked at him and placed a hand over his chest. She whispered something in her language, then stepped forward. The wall split, open to reveal a landing platform. Jace panicked. "What are you doing?" She didn't answer. Instead, she walked out into the light. Moments later, 3 armored figures floated down from the lead ship. They were her kind, but colder. Less alive. Covered in hard exo-armor and with glowing red visors instead of eyes. One stepped forward and pointed at Jace, still standing behind the force field. Jace couldn't hear the exact words, but he saw the gestures. Surrender the human. Srani shook her head. The soldier raised his blaster. In a blink, she moved. Not with violence, but with authority. She stood in front of Jace, blocking their view of him. She raised both hands, then spread them apart slowly, an ancient symbol of protection in her culture. The lead soldier barked again, this time louder. His weapon hummed. Then it happened. He fired. The blue bolt shot through the air toward the platform. Jace screamed, "No!" But Srani didn't move. The bolt hit her shoulder. She didn't fall. She stood still, tall, shaking, but unmoved. Smoke rose from her wound. Her face stayed calm. She was protecting him with her own body. The other soldiers hesitated. This wasn't normal. Srani was a decorated warrior, a hero in their empire. Disobeying her meant challenging their own history. One Soldier lowered his gun. Another looked around, unsure. The lead one stared at her. Then he turned and flew back to the ship. A moment later, the warships began to rise. They didn't attack. They just left. Silence returned. The platform closed again. Jace rushed to her side. "You're hurt. Why did you stand there like that? You could have died." Sarani finally spoke in broken words he understood. "No one. Take my child." Her voice cracked. Her large hand gently brushed his cheek before she collapsed into his arms, heavy and bleeding. Jace struggled to hold her. He shouted at the floating jellyfish machines. "Help her, do something!" They moved in, covering her with healing light. But Jace didn't leave her side. He had come to this place broken and alone. But now? Now he would protect her too. She wasn't just his rescuer, she was his mother, and no one, alien or human, was going to take her away. Escape through the stars. The wound on her shoulder was deep, but Sarani didn't rest. She was already moving. Inside her living ship, panels opened and closed as she walked through them, giving her access to hidden chambers. The walls responded to her touch like living creatures obeying their queen. Jace followed closely behind, limping but refusing to sit. "What are you doing? You need to rest." Sarani looked back at him. Her glowing blue eyes weren't soft now. They were focused, burning, with purpose. She opened a sealed door. Inside was a small escape vessel, barely big enough for two. It looked like a metal egg, but it pulsed like a beating heart. Jace stared. "We're leaving?" Sarani nodded once. She pressed her hand to the wall. Alien symbols floated in the air. She selected a route. Jace read it on the screen. Destination, outer human colony. Coordinates hidden. A warning flashed beneath it. Treason confirmed. Enemy status active. She was now officially an outlaw, for him. She looked at him again and placed her massive hand on his chest. "Safe. Must go. Now." Jace clenched his fists. "You're risking everything, why?" Her answer was simple, quiet, and final. "Because you are mine." Before Jace could reply, the ship shook violently. An explosion rocked the side. The walls groaned. Warning lights lit up like a firestorm. They had come back, and this time, they weren't asking. Sarani didn't wait. She grabbed Jace and rushed to the pod. She gently placed him inside, strapped him in, then climbed in beside him. Her body barely fit. She curled around him like a protective shell. The door closed. The escape vessel launched. Outside, the main ship exploded behind them, its organic hull tearing apart in fire and smoke. Jace stared in shock through the pod's round window as their home, her home, was destroyed. Sarani didn't look back. She focused on flying. The stars stretched in long lines around them. They had entered slipstream, a form of faster-than-light travel that tore through space like ripping paper. Jace was silent. Everything he had known was gone again. First Earth, then his squad. Now, even the peace he had found in her care. He looked up at her. Even in this cramped space, Sarani held him like a shield. Her injured arm was bleeding again, but she never made a sound. "Why do you keep doing this?" he whispered. She didn't answer this time. Instead, she leaned her head forward and rested her forehead gently against his, the way a mother comforts a frightened child. Jace closed his eyes. They floated through the stars. Two fugitives, one human, one alien. No home, no army, no plan, just each other. Hours passed. The escape pod drifted into a quiet part of space, far from any known system. Sarani activated a cloaking field. The pod's lights dimmed. For now, they were hidden. She finally lay back and closed her eyes, exhausted. Jace stayed awake, watching her. He realized something deep inside him had changed. She had taken him from death, nursed him like a son, protected him like a warrior, and now she had burned every bridge behind her for him. He thought of his real mother, lost long ago in the first alien raids. He had buried that pain deep, never spoke of it, never even cried. But now, in the silence of the pod, with a 9-foot alien curled around him like a living blanket, he felt something crack inside. A tear slid down his cheek, and for once, he didn't hide it. Srani opened one eye. She wiped it gently with a finger big enough to crush stone, but soft as a whisper. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. They were no longer soldier and alien. They were family now. The human colony didn't understand. The escape pod broke through the thick clouds like a falling star. Below, the outer human colony of Kestron 5 came into view. Metal domes on red dirt, shield fields glowing, and distant towers scanning the sky. It was a world, made for survival, not comfort. Alarms sounded the moment their pod appeared. Human defense drones zipped into the air like angry wasps. Srani didn't flinch. She held Jace close as the pod gently landed, supported by anti-gravity thrusters. The ship hissed as it opened. Warm air rushed in. Jace stepped out first, limping, but alive. And behind him the ground trembled as Srani stepped onto human soil. The soldiers froze. She was massive, bleeding, alien, and standing behind a human boy like a bodyguard. "Stand down," Jace yelled, raising his hands. "She's not the enemy." But it was too late. A dozen rifles locked on target. "Get away from him," someone shouted. "Step away from the alien." Srani looked at Jace confused. Her eyes didn't understand the hatred in their voices. "Please," he begged. "She saved me. She carried me through war. He didn't finish." A stun round fired. Srani jerked backward, but didn't fall. She didn't attack. She simply opened her arms and stepped in front of Jace again, shielding him. "Stop," he screamed. "She's bleeding. She's protecting me." The captain of the squad stepped forward. "Private Corbin, are you out of your mind? That's a hostile war-spec alien. We have orders to shoot on sight." "She's not hostile," Jace shouted. "She's a mother." Laughter, bitter and cold. "A mother?" the captain repeated. "You've lost your mind." Jace stepped closer to them. "You don't get it. She picked me up from the battlefield like I was her own. She healed me, fed me, sang to me when I was crying in pain." "She brainwashed you," someone muttered. "No," Jace said, voice low now. "She raised me." Back at the colony medbay, tension thickened. Srani was placed in a containment field, not chained, not harmed, but still treated like a threat. Her massive body was surrounded by scanner drones. She didn't speak. She didn't resist. She just sat quietly. Jace sat outside, bruised, heart pounding. A few hours later, a senior human diplomat came to see him. "We accessed her biologs," the woman said. "We translated what we could. There are files, poems, audio recordings, of her singing lullabies to her dead child." Jace swallowed hard. She lost her child in the early raids, burned alive in a human missile strike. She kept the child's room alive inside her ship, even after death. Jace nodded slowly. "She put me in that room," he said. "Wrapped me in the same blankets, fed me the same food. Not because she wanted a replacement, because she wanted to save someone, anyone, from the same fate." The diplomat sat down. "You really believe she loves you?" Jace looked up, eyes fierce. "I don't believe it. I know it." The woman was quiet for a moment. Then she said something no one expected. "Then, maybe she deserves asylum." Later that night, the field around Srani was lifted. Jace walked in first. She stood up, towering, tired, wounded, and looked down at him with glowing eyes full of silence. He stepped forward and hugged her. It wasn't like hugging a person. It was like hugging a wall, a tree, a mountain that could fall on you but never would. She knelt down. For the first time in her life, on a human world, she knelt and gently touched her forehead to his. A monument for a mother years past. The war that had torn so many planets apart was over. Peace did not come easy, but it came, slowly. slowly, carefully, painfully. Some called it a cold truce, others a miracle. But one thing was clear. Everything changed when Private Jace Corbin walked out of a drop pod cradled in the arms of an alien woman. Her name, once hated, was now studied in schools. Srani of the Vizari, a soldier, a mother, a peacemaker. But not everyone knew the full story. Not like Jace did. He stood on the grassy hilltop of New Terra, one of the first peaceful joint human-alien colonies. The sun above was soft and golden, different from Earth's. The trees had purple leaves. The air smelled like warm fruit and minerals. In front of him stood the monument. It was tall, almost as tall as Srani had been in life. Carved from a white stone that glowed faintly at night, the statue showed her kneeling, her hand stretched outward, offering safety, not fear. Her eyes were kind, not fierce. And wrapped gently at her side was a small human child, symbolic, of course, but Jace had posed for it. And though he was older now, stronger, wearing a decorated peacekeeper's coat, he still looked up at her with the same awe he'd felt on that battlefield. She would have hated this statue, Jace muttered with a sad smile. Beside him stood Commander Thalen, an alien diplomat from Srani's world. She never liked being called a hero. She wasn't trying to be, Jace replied. She just wanted her child back. Thalen looked away, and instead she raised another. It had been 2 years since she passed, not in battle, not in prison, not even from her wounds. Just quietly. One morning, she didn't rise. Jace had entered her quarters with a meal and found her sitting in her resting pose, head lowered, eyes closed. Peaceful. He dropped the tray. He fell to his knees. He begged her to wake up. But her heartbeat, that deep, soft thump that always comforted him when he slept nearby, was silent. She was gone. A medic said her body had been failing for a while. Her DNA was changing. Too much exposure to alien gravity, new foods, human meds, maybe even heartbreak. Maybe. She had held on as long as she could, long enough to know he was safe. Then let go. The funeral had stopped the colony. Humans gathered in quiet confusion. Aliens arrived in silent honor. Srani's casket was not made of metal. It was woven from living branches, sealed with her family's symbols. Inside, she was dressed not as a warrior, but as a mother. Her hands were folded over her chest. In her palm, Jace had placed a simple photo, the only picture of them together laughing in a field. No one spoke during the burial. They didn't have to. The grief in the air said everything. Now, years later, Jace touched the stone base of the monument. He read the inscription aloud, his voice rough. To the mother who crossed the stars, not to conquer, but to care. She saved one life, but healed 2 worlds. He looked at the line below it, added recently, adopted human son Jace Corbin. He sighed and sat down in the grass. Every week he visited her. Sometimes he just sat in silence. Sometimes, like today, he told her what had changed. Your people sent another message, he said, brushing dust off his boots. They want to name a ship after you. A medical cruiser, not a warship, something peaceful. He smiled softly. I think you'd like that. He took out a small container and opened it. Inside was a wrapped fruit, blue, glowing slightly. He placed it at the base of the statue. Your favorite? He whispered. I still remember the face you made when I ate it without peeling. A soft breeze passed. He looked at her carved face. The stone eyes still seemed alive somehow, like she was still watching, still guarding, still loving. Jace stood and looked at the crowd gathering below. Children from both species were playing in the grass. Human kids chased alien bugs, alien younglings, climbed trees that sang when touched, and teachers pointed at the monument. Who's that? A small child asked. One of the teachers smiled. That's Srani, a Vizari guardian. She loved someone more than she feared war. Was she a soldier? She was more than that. She was a mother. That night, as stars lit up the sky, Jace stood on the balcony of his small home. The same soft lights from Serrani's old ship now lit his walls. He had saved what he could. Even the jellyfish drones floated above his roof. Silent, peaceful. He looked up. Somewhere out there was her homeworld, a place she could never return to, because she had chosen him, and he had promised himself he would never waste that sacrifice. Jace reached into his coat and pulled out a small stone pendant. He wore it every day. It was carved from the same rock her statue was made from. He clutched it tightly and whispered, "I miss you, Mom."